Hi everyone, so today I'm going to be showing you how I made this skirt out of this set of 4 fat quarters from Hobbycraft. Now this set of fabric was only £9.50, so this is a really affordable project that anyone can do. The only extra bits I used was an invisible zip and a hook and eye closure. So now I'm going to show you the process of making this skirt. I've taken my smallest measurement around my waist and my largest measurement around my hips and bum. You need to make sure that your hip measurement is the widest possible measurement because this is what we'll be using to cut the fabric. So you don't want to make this too small. If in doubt, go too big, as you can always take the skirt in more, but you can't add the fabric back once you've cut it. We also need to decide the seam allowance. I've gone with 1 centimetre to reduce any excess fabric. And now I'm working out my panel size. There are 8 panels in my design, so I'm dividing my waist measurement by 8 and then adding on 2 centimetres for a seam allowance on either side. So it's now time to start the construction of the skirt. I'm taking the measurement I just worked out, the 15.75 centimetres, and I'm cutting strips of fabric this wide for my panels. I decided to round up my panels to 16 centimetres just to make it a little easier and give myself some extra wiggle room. I'm measuring 16 centimetres across the fabric with pins and then folding along that line and cutting off the excess fabric. I then unfold the fabric and cut along the centre to get 2 panels. And I repeat this process for each colour until I have all 8 panels. We now have all 8 panels cut out, and so the next step is to attach them all together. I'm placing the panels right sides together and pinning 1 centimetre from the edge, and I'm going to repeat this until all 8 are attached. And now, using the sewing machine, I'm going to attach the panels together, sewing 1 centimetre from the edge along the line we just pinned. Now that all of the panels are attached, I can hold the skirt up to my body and check the fit. At this point, the most important thing is that it's fitting nicely around your hips and bum. Don't worry about it being too big at the waist, as this is what we're going to address next. Earlier I measured that my waist was 74 centimetres and my hips were 110. This means that I need to take out 36 centimetres from the waist, or 4.5 centimetres from each seam. So to achieve this, I need to measure around 2 centimetres from each of the existing seams. You'll have your own measurements, so to summarise, it's the difference between your hip and waist measurement. You need to divide that by 16, and that figure is how far you need to measure in from your existing seam and pin. So where I've just pinned, I'm going to add some basting stitches on the machine. This is going to make it easier to do the rest of the fitting, as if you leave the pins in, they can get stuck to your clothes and make it really tricky to move the fabric around as you need to. So now you want to take your skirt and wrap it around you with the wrong side facing out. You're going to place some pins along the open edge to keep the skirt up, and then just pinch the fabric along the seams so that it's close to your body and pin it together. You want to do this all the way around for each seam until you get the fit that you want. Don't worry if it's not perfect the first time, as you can repeat this as many times as you need to, but this is how we're going to achieve the fitted look of the skirt. Before sewing that into place, I'm just flipping the skirt the other way around and checking that it looks okay. Once you're happy with how you've pinned your skirt, you can take it over to the machine and sew along the lines you've pinned. Make sure to smooth all the points you've pinned together. You don't want to have any harsh angles, and you need to ease gradually into the existing seam. And you might need to do this process a few times, taking it from the machine, looking at it on your body, taking it back to the machine, and making any adjustments you need to make sure each seam is nice and smooth and doesn't have any lumps or bumps. I'm now checking the fit before moving on to the next step. You can see that I've got a few lumps, so I just make note of where they are and go back to the machine and smooth those parts out. So now that we're happy with the fit, the next step is to use the extra fabric that we cut off at the beginning to create the waistband. This time I'm cutting 9 panels as I need an extra one due to my design of the waistband being offset rather than in line with the panels below. I'm making sure that my strips are wide enough, and then I'm cutting 2 of each colour, and then I'm cutting an extra one of the colour that's going to be at the closure on the side. To make the waistband, I'm using the skirt as a guide. I'm taking each colour that I want and placing it so that the centre of the waistband panel matches the seam of the 2 panels below. I'm then taking the next colour along and putting it right sides together and pinning in line with the centre of the panel below. This technique means that my waistband will be precise, whereas if you try and sew your waistband using panels of equal size, it's likely that these won't match up with the panels below, as you'll have taken out different amounts from each panel when doing your sizing. I'm repeating this process all the way along until each panel is attached. You should end up with the same colour on each end of the waistband. once you've finished pinning your panels together, you just want to sew each one together along the line you've pinned. It's important that you sew in line with the pins as you've placed these specifically where you want your seams to be. Once the waistband has been attached, the next step is to iron those seams open, and we're going to press some lines into the waistband to use it as a guide when sewing. First, you need to fold the waistband in half and iron this flat. Now you open the waistband back up and turn over the edge and iron this flat. You then repeat this for the other edge. And once you've done this, you should have 3 lines that you're going to be able to follow when sewing. I'm now machine sewing the waistband on, and following that ironed crease makes it really easy to get a nice straight line and know exactly where to sew. As I sew, I'm just making sure that all my seams are being ironed open and that I'm not catching any fabric. Now that the waistband is attached, it's time to add the zip. I did film me pinning this into place, but unfortunately it ended up being a video off the back of my head, so I can't show you. But to summarise, for the top of the zip, I pinned it 4 cm away from the edge, which is the same amount I took out of each seam earlier to create the waist. And then I've pinned the seam on a diagonal so that the bottom is 1 cm from the edge, which was the original seam allowance. I've also changed my sewing machine foot for an invisible zipper foot. This is the key to creating the invisible zip, as it allows you to sew really close to the teeth of the zip. You can also put this in with a normal foot, but you won't be able to get the stitches close enough for it to be invisible, so you will be able to see it when you turn it the right side out. Now that the zip is inserted, I'm checking that the fit is okay. If it's not, you might need to change the positioning of the zip, but luckily mine was all good. So now it's time to finish off the waistband. I'm moving the top of the zip out of the way so that I can make sure I catch it in the waistband, and then I'm folding the waistband over so that the right sides are together. I'm then sewing along the edge of the waistband in line with the stitches used to attach the zip. I'm now cutting off the excess fabric on a diagonal so that I can get a nice corner on the waistband, and I'm just going to repeat this whole process on the other side of the waistband. Now for the rest of the waistband, I'm hand stitching it in place to the inside of the skirt. This is just to make sure it stays in place, so it doesn't need to be particularly precise. I'm placing my stitches into the excess seam fabric so that it can't be seen from the other side. And now I'm sewing on a hook and eye closure. Now that the waistband's complete, it's time to hem the skirt. While wearing the skirt, I'm just folding the fabric under and pinning where I want the hem to be. I'm going to do this all the way around and iron a crease into the fabric where I've pinned. I've cut off the excess fabric, and now to create the hem, I'm folding the fabric over once and then again, making sure that the second fold ends where the crease is. I'm then pinning this into place. And now I'm just stitching that into place. And here's how the skirt's looking. You could definitely finish it here, but I decided I wanted to add a pocket, so that's what I'm going to do next. So I've just taken some scrap fabric and attached it together to create the pocket. I sewed down the centre to connect two pieces together and then added another piece to the top, which I secured by stitching in the ditch. I tried to film this, but I did the thing where I recorded in between
all the footage that I wanted to collect because I stopped the recording when I was supposed to start it. So I can't show you, but that's what I did. And now I'm placing the pocket where I want it on the back of the skirt and pinning it into place, making sure to tuck the raw edges under, and then I'm just going to stitch this into place using the machine. And here we have the finished skirt.
So that was the process of me making my skirt. And just to finish off the video, I just wanted to talk to you about some of the mistakes I made when I was making this skirt, because it's definitely not perfect. So the first thing, and I think the biggest issue, is that when I did my hem, I've gone way too far from the edge. Well, no, way too close to the edge. So it's kind of hard to show, but here is the bottom. You can see where I've flipped it up. I've sewn quite close to the edge, which means there's all this extra fabric that can hang down like this and show from the other side like that. So at a later date, I'll probably unpick and either cut off the excess fabric and refold it, or I could just sew closer, well, higher up, so that holds it in place. So that's probably the biggest issue and the only one that I'm actually worried about fixing. The other thing I did was when I put in the zip, I went about halfway up the waistline, and I think it would have been better if I'd either gone to below the waistline or to the top of it, not halfway. It just doesn't look like it's meant to be like that, but it still works. I mean, who is actually going to notice that when you're wearing it? Probably no one, so I don't really care, but just to note. And I think the only other thing was when I was attaching my pocket, when I was turning this fabric over, I missed the fabric quite a few times, so there were parts where it was sticking out, the raw edge was sticking out. So what I ended up doing was I put in 2 lines of stitches, so this was my original line, and then I went around again closer to the edge, which I think looks fine, and it could look intentional. It doesn't look like it's necessarily a mistake, so I'm actually quite happy with how it turned out. But the other thing about the pocket is I think it's huge. Like, that is a big pocket. I was really worried about being able to fit my phone in it, so I tried to make it as big as possible, and I think I went too far. So if I did it again, I'd probably do a more subtle pocket. But other than those things, I think it looks really cute. In some lights, this burgundy looks really red and this beige looks really yellow, which I don't like because I don't think those colours go that nicely together. But in person, this is like a really nice burgundy, and this is like a peachy light pink. It's just on camera they kind of clash in some lighting. But again, does it really matter? No. So I'm pretty happy, but I suppose if you didn't like that combination, you could just do these 3 colours. You just might have to get 2 packets of fabric because I'm not sure that there would be enough if you did that. But yeah, that is how I made my skirt. I'm going to write up some instructions of how I did it because some parts I kind of glossed over. So hopefully that will make it easier if you do want to actually try it for yourself. So yeah, thanks for watching and I hope you enjoyed.